conversation. Good morning. Today is a day and it's 4:20 somewhere. Okay, so two quick stories for you today, just to get you through the week. We have one about the NFL, who it came out last week. They have given $1 million to two studies that will test whether or not marijuana can actually help with pain, manage pain, and also if it can help athletes recover from a concussion sooner, which is a fascinating thing that I haven't really heard of much about in terms of whether or not and how that can help athletes recover from a concussion. But that's what they're studying, these two different studies happening at the same time. The pain management is a fascinating thing because it is almost accepted fact today that marijuana does help pain, does relieve pain, and the medical marijuana industry has completely rode on the backbone of that. So for them to be studying that, it almost seems a little bit regressive because there's no reason to if we already know that it's true. However, one of the doctors who was quoted in the story kind of brings up a good point, which is that it actually wasn't really studied and there isn't a lot of conclusive evidence about pain management and marijuana. So a lot of doctors can't actually, in good faith, recommend it. So they're just trying to get some conclusive evidence that they can finally back and say, yes, this does for once and for all affect and manage pain well. And if that's the case, the expected result is the NFL stops their ban on marijuana and allows athletes to use it as a management of pain. But by the way, their ban is not really that much of a ban anymore. It's more of a fine, but the fine is only if you get multiple positive test results. So it's pretty lax as it is now. It's still technically a ban. And finally, a little note to put on these fear-mongered stories that we see pop up a good amount in some local news. We've seen it in Connecticut, we've seen it in Philadelphia suburbs, we've seen it around New York, and now we're seeing it in Illinois, which is that there are reports of fentanyl-laced marijuana. So we've reported about this in the past. I did this whole deep dive into it and to see whether or not it's true. And a lot of these local news stories have come out later to have been retracted, and the police have found there was there was actually no lacing of fentanyl. There is one case where they did find marijuana with fentanyl. So it is a thing. But most of these stories, especially this one in Danville, Illinois, is probably not true because they don't really have much evidence for this. They just have police warning about the possibility of fentanyl-laced marijuana. No marijuana has actually been traced to fentanyl. What they say in the article is there have been reports of marijuana users experiencing severe psychedelic side effects and typical fentanyl overdose symptoms of itching, nausea, and serious respiratory depression. So none of that conclusively points to fentanyl. It could be many things. There could be other kinds of lacings or something that got mixed up in the marijuana besides fentanyl. There are a lot of things here, and I don't really know what to think of this, where the police come out and warn the public about the potential of fentanyl-laced marijuana, because of course they're trying to go as far and extreme as possible just in case it is that, just so there are no actual overdoses of marijuana. But at the same time, now it comes into a national scale, and people like me, who was not in Danville, Illinois, are seeing this and thinking, oh my God, the illicit market is full of fentanyl-laced marijuana, and we have to worry, and that's just not the case. Of course, fentanyl is one of the bigger problems we're facing in the country right now, but when it comes to marijuana, they just don't really mix, and there's no reason for them to mix, and that's just kind of where we're gonna leave it right now, because there's just no evidence for this. And I would say if you ever see a story like this in your local area, take it with a huge grain of salt, or even 2 grains of salt. And that's that for today. It's just those 2 stories. We'll be back later this week, probably Thursday, with some more stories. I'll see you then.